Welcome, everybody, to the Hustle Culture Podcast, where we profile entrepreneurs as they go through the climb and discuss the journeys that they've had. So today's episode is a little different. I still have my co-host, as always. It's Carlos Gil, but we're going to do a little his and hers. We hustled our way to this episode because we had to change guests, but as our promise is to you is to provide value, we want to make sure we go about the hustling in a different way. But we have two great entrepreneurs, two people, one in the creative services and one in the social media industry. And we're going to have a his and hers opinion on what their journey's been like and kind of what the entrepreneurship world is like in their world.
Yo, what's happening, hustlers? Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Hustle Culture Podcast. Want to first say thank you to everyone that's watching us here on today's episode on Blab. We appreciate having the live studio audience. Make sure that you tell a little bird. Let's get the Twitters chirping. And let's give some props to our guests that are joining us here today. And also, big shout out and thank you to all of you that have subscribed on iTunes to the Hustle Culture Podcast. You guys rock. Thank you for all the reviews that you've left us. And if you haven't checked out the show, if you haven't left out a review yet, make sure that you go ahead and do that. So we're here with another episode. Like Tayo said, we had to make a pivot and change. Our guest had an unforeseen circumstance come up at last minute. So, hey, in true hustle fashion, we had to go and get our guests are joining us today. Let's start with the lovely Q the brand, Monique and Robert Blake. Welcome to the Hustle Culture, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. So, you know how we like to start things off, Carlos? Carlos,
we like to start things with talking about our weekly grind. And this is where Tayo and we talk about what we've worked on in the past week. And we're also going to change it up this week. We want to invite Roberto and Monique to talk about their weekly grind and what they had to either overcome or some of the challenges they faced or even some of the accomplishments that they achieved. So for this week's weekly grind, let's start it off with Q. Ladies first.
Awesome. So I'm super stoked to share. I mean, this is definitely relevant to hustle culture, but also some real talk. I've been in business for 5 years. This month was my 5th anniversary and super exciting, but super scary. I target, as I was saying before, the restaurant and hospitality industry. Most restaurants have a life expectancy of 3 to 5 years. So a marketing company geared towards restaurants might have a life expectancy of 3 to 5 years. So it's time to pivot. As you all know, social media also has taken a different turn with all these tools and whatnot. So, I started targeting the higher end clients, the more scalable, sustainable clients. And I'm a salesperson, man. My first job was a telemarketer. I'll sell you the old clothes out of your closet. I love to sell, but the problem is that I'm a closer. So when closing a client took 9 months, I started to feel like I don't know how to close anything anymore. And so in the last week and a half, I closed a client after 9 months. I also closed 2 or 3 big clients in a day. One was 1 day and the other 2 were in like 2 days. So I closed 3 or 4 clients in the last week and a half. I have 4 more potentials. I was networking the heck out of my brand this week. So, I'm starting to feel that vibe again, that I can actually do it.
Awesome.
Okay. No, that's definitely great news to hear. And, Roberto, since you're a guest, we want to have you go next.
All right. So my weekly grind has been pretty intense. There's been a lot of things going on in the different spaces that I play in. I got out 3 different articles this past week. I have something else that's going to be coming up. I did a YouTube article over on Medium.com, specifically encouraging creators not to freak out about this whole new YouTube Red thing that's going on. I've been fielding a lot of questions about that. I did both episodes of my 2 Blab shows this week. Mondays, I did Create Awesome Live. And this past Friday, I did YouTube Biz Talk, where we talked a lot about the new YouTube Red features and what's going on. Also talked a lot of strategy, had a lot of great guests for that. Did out of my, we're in the 6th day of the week, technically from my week starting Monday. So I grinded out the 6 YouTube videos for the week so far. I have another one coming out today, possibly another 2 coming out today. I got Tayo a video that I've owed him for a while. I got that out today. I got a awesome video about why millennials are awesome that I filmed while at Next Gen Summit where me and Tayo met. So that dropped today. So people can definitely check that out over on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/RobertoBlake2. But yeah, it's just been a regular grind for me on the client side. I had like maybe 5 prospects this week, 3 that I think we're moving forward. And I'm prepping to speak at Revolve Conference next week. So that's what my week's been like.
Wow, awesome. Yeah. Hey, kudos to both of you hustlers out there. For those watching on Blab, let's prop them up because they are living and embodying what hustle is all about. It's week to week, and you guys are definitely crushing it out there. So I know as we move on with this episode, Roberto, I definitely want to chat with you about YouTube's new subscription model and also what you're working on YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and go before we transition over to Tayo. My weekly grind was all about setting forward priorities for 2016. And I do this every single year before the new year comes around. I get just this rush of energy, which is all about planning. And I start to write down what am I hoping to accomplish in the year ahead and how am I going to get there. So in addition to my day job, there's also a lot of other projects that I plan on being involved in. And yeah, I really think that the way to be financially independent is by having multiple income streams. And with that being said, it's about having a lot of different seeds out there that you are constantly planting and watering. And part of my strategy is to have conversations. And I think we might have talked about this in a couple episodes ago, Tayo, but I believe a lot in taking conversations offline. And there's so much that social media can do to help introduce you to new connections and really be that bridge. But you have to have conversations offline. And I spent a lot of this week, again, writing down what do I hope to accomplish in the new year, who do I want to work with, and actually picking up the phone and having conversations with people. So that was my weekly hustle. And with that, my man, I turn it over to you, Tayo.
Wow, you three are just really on fire. You guys are putting me to shame. But before I talk about my hustle, I want to say this is a quote that I recently came across and I really resonate with. And it goes like, discipline is just choosing between what you want now and what you want most, right? And I think that resonates with a lot of us hustlers because this week I had that intention to do the 2016 thing as well. And Roberto and I and Carlos and I, we've talked about this. So I put down the framework for a speaking tour that I will be involved in next year. And then I also decided to get over the fear of reaching out to people. One of my biggest fears was reaching out to CEOs of established media companies because I run a media company and thinking that I wasn't ready. So I reached out to one of them in one of this random 2 a.m. nights that I'm up. And to my surprise, I got a response, which goes out to the hustle thing. You never know who you're going to respond. So I reached out to him. I said, subject, I thought you might be interested in this. And then I just told him, I pitched him the idea I had. And the next day he reached out to me and now they want me to meet. And I'm freaking out internally, but it's also part of the idea that you never know who's going to respond if you don't put yourself out there. And I know, Carlos, you talk about this a lot. And I'm really excited that we have these 2 here to talk about the importance of putting yourself out there and positioning yourself in front of influencers. Because if you take yourself seriously, They will take you seriously. So that was kind of my weekly hustle. I was getting over that fear of reaching out to people, thinking I'm not ready, and also putting down the plan for 2016.
I was going to say, how many times did you and I chat throughout this week, Tayo?
We talked, I don't know, over
at least
more than 10 times at least. I mean,
and again, like this is the power of social media, right? For those of you that are just new to listening to hustle culture, Tayo and I, we connected through social a couple of years ago. And I've always seen in Tayo just this drive and this aspiration and this hustle that has it's drawn me to him. And once Blab came about to be, and I actually got to see Tayo in the human form. And just so you guys know, we've actually met each in person before. We hung out earlier this year when I was in New York. So I really got a chance to meet Tayo and get to really feel his character and that passion live, offline. But when Blab came out and I saw what he was doing with Use Your Difference, we reached out and was like, let's start up this show on Blab that we can carry over to iTunes and make it a series around spotlighting hustlers and entrepreneurs, and people are doing really amazing things. So we've been talking almost on a daily basis since we launched the show, and love working with you, Tayo. And again, man, 2016, I think it's a fresh slate for everyone. We're going to do some amazing things.
Yeah, you're gonna make me cry on air right now. Come on. You can't do that right now. But I really appreciate the kind words, and thank you for that. And you know, I feel the same way about you, and I'm glad that we're doing this because I think, like we said, this will lead into the next question. Actually, since we just finished that segment, is as we go through and meet many entrepreneurs, Carlos, we always are fascinated by their stories because every time we ask them what their hustle is and what the definition of hustle is, they come up with different definitions and what that meant to them. And many times it's a pivotal time for them. For me, it was a near-death experience. Other people, it's like, a loss of a wife or a divorce. So I'm curious. We're going to do the ladies first, as usual. So Q, just be ready for every first question.
Is this a good thing or what?
What does, it's a good thing. It's a good thing because we're matching. What does hustle mean to you, and what is your
hustle? To me, hustle is like the feeling of you are the only one that can make or break yourself. You're the only one that can do the work, that can preach your message and achieve your goals. So you just have to muster up that energy to get things done. I am all about what Carlos just said. 2015 is a new year, and it's a new chance for us to, achieve new goals or the same goals. We get another chance at them. I'm ready for 2016. 2015 has been the most challenging year of my life, professionally and personally, but I was still able to hustle, but I always think that I could do more. So I think part of hustling is also the feeling that you're not doing enough. I don't know about you all. Roberto?
So I think that that's an amazing definition of hustle. And I really like that. And I like how that becomes a very personal thing. But I'm going to go more broad on mine, but also specific. So a little background, I started out a long time ago back in middle school and high school running track and cross country. And that's where I actually first heard the term hustle in my life. So I've always used it as a sports metaphor. And I think that our friend Gary Vee would appreciate this. So for me, hustle becomes purposefully moving toward a clearly defined goal with a sense of urgency. And I get that from being a track and field guy because it's about the intention of getting to that finish line as quickly as possible. So you've got the sense of urgency. The finish line, you know exactly where that is. You know exactly how many laps that is. You know that's your mile, your 2 mile, or your 10K. So you're taking all the steps that it takes to get there. And that's the process of the work. And it's not enough to just run hard and exhaust yourself. You have to be looking to do that with a sense of urgency and purpose. You're doing this, you're running with intention. So it's about your form. It's about how you're getting there. And it's about getting there without killing yourself. So that's what, to me, hustle is. And that's how I define it. And I use that as something that people can take that's actionable.
Roberto, I got a comment if you guys don't mind.
Go for it.
I'm actually trying to find this balance because I am, and these two know that I'm an intense person. And it's because, I'm a survivor in life and I'm hustling all the time. And it is hard to find that balance, but there's a certain amount of intensity that I think you have to have. I mean, it's almost like just intensity, passion to keep that hustle going.
So what's the question?
Right.
Is the question how you find the balance of that?
Did I say question? I meant comment.
No. It wasn't a question. It was a comment. But Carlos,
I'm with Roberto. I'm a big sports guy, as I know you are as well, Tayo. And every time that you hear about a hustle, right, it's the fourth quarter. You're tired. You got to hustle to grind up the quarter, up the field, and make that winning shot. So when I think of a hustle in the business sense, I make the sports connection of it's about hard work, right? It's about putting all the obstacles aside. It's about taking the word failure out of your vocabulary and just going out and grinding and getting it. We all know that business isn't easy. We all know that if you want to accomplish something, you have to work. You have to grind to get there. And what's going to set you apart, what's going to set the winners and the mediocres apart is hustle. So you've got a lot of folks that are average, and it's easy to be average. You just show up. You're average. But if you really want to supersede your peers and take your game to the next level, whatever it might be, whether it's working for a company or having your own business or being a speaker. If you want to get to that next level, you have to grind to get there and overcome anything that gets in your path. And it could be not making money. How are you going to hustle to accomplish success without making money and still get by? Just for example. So that's how I view hustle. It's what you really have inside of you. It's that tenacity that drives you to that next level.
We've got a great question here from the audience. And it's two around that. It's with Tony and Daily Fast Blog. One says, what about the negative connotation? And the other is, don't you guys worry about being too aggressive? So what is
this a ladies first thing?
Sure,
I can say that I have started using hustle or hustler or hustle culture in even like my Facebook posts or Twitter posts. And people start, calling me out and saying like, I know what you mean, but it sounds like you mean something else, or, the negative part of it. And, whatever. It's almost like a hater to me. If you are going to focus on that word and try and challenge me and say, oh, you mean something else, or you're really not doing what you say you're doing, you're just trying to be fake busy and a fakepreneur and all that. I'm a hustler. I have built all these businesses out of passion and need. I don't worry about those comments. Mm-hmm. I just ignore them. And being aggressive, I would say is being like intense. People accuse me of being too serious or being too intense. And I ignore that too, because at the day they're not bills. At the end of the day, they're not my retirement plan. And you just have to fend for yourself. I mean, that's the kind of culture this is now, Right. You can't necessarily rely on employers. If you're, once you're an entrepreneur, it's really hard to go back, really, really, really hard to go back to working for someone. So I just ignore the noise.
Okay. Mr. Blake?
Well, I'm going to, kind of answer this question and the one that just came up regarding that because they come together. And I totally agree with where you're coming from on that, Monique. And I think you and Carlos and Taya will agree with this as well, is that the people who are trying to take it negatively, they want to take it negatively. They specifically want to do that, usually from a defensive stance, or because they don't understand, they've only seen people do it in a negative way. So I think it's important to communicate your own intentions and be very clear. And that's why a lot of times I won't just do like a Facebook post that just says blah, 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 hustle or something like that. I will do a long format post and give context and give the positive message of what I'm trying to help people realize to push to do that. There is the outcome of I want success and good things for you, but I know that it takes hard work. And I want to give you a narrative that encourages you not to give up or not to talk yourself out of the work that success and happiness and prosperity or accomplishment requires. The work that being happy is a job. People don't realize that. To be happy, you have to position yourself to be happy. It's just like Carlos was using the analogy. It's watering and planting those seeds. If there's a bamboo tree, it takes watering that thing for 6 days. And if you miss one, it will not grow. And the happiness and the things you want in life are exactly the same. They require consistency. But when you talk about that, you have to be very clear in your communication, or people are going to take it as a negative. They're going to take it as a pejorative. And then to the people who say, well, why are you talking about, why not just do and show? Look, we live in a really noisy world, and I'm going to counterpunch, and I'm going to say something that people are not going to like. It's like if you're sitting quiet and you want to be a wallflower, you are going to lose, because that is not realistic. It is romantic, and it is not the way the real world works. Mm-hmm. You want to show that you're the best. You want to do the best. You got to do it. You got to make people aware of it. And when you don't, you're cheating them. Because if you're the best of the best, the best with honor, sir, but you're trying to play a false humility game because it sounds cool or that's the way you were raised, not only are you going to lose, but you're cheating people out of the best experience they could have of having you, instead of going with the loudest, noisiest person that got their attention. And that's the mistake. And that's why we market. That's why there's advertising. And that's where the value of it is because if you want to deliver and you genuinely want to create awesome experiences for people, you've got to show up. You got to be there. And when you show up, you got to get noticed. You got to get attention. And that's why Blab is probably one of the most important networking platforms today. So,
yes, sir.
Don't just you. You do work and power.
No, you know what I love about what Roberto was saying, Carlos. It's simple. This is how I see it.
And he puts the glasses back on. I'm sorry. I hate to cut you off, Tyler, but someone just dropped in the comments here. They thought Roberto was getting fired up, and he like took the glasses off. Now he just put it back on.
Like it's gonna get good. He took the glasses off.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, I guess. You just threw me off my target. What I was saying is, I think entrepreneurs, you're inevitably going to have haters. You're inevitably going to have people that question what you do. But what you have to get to a point of is being comfortable who you are, clearing your intention, clearing your vision, and understanding that initially, a lot of times you're going to have to be your biggest cheerleader. And it's okay for you to be your biggest cheerleader because you're the one that is trying to build a business for yourself and make an impact. And if you let every single, where it says, oh, that's too aggressive, that's too that, it's, it can definitely cause you to question yourself more than you probably need to. I mean, I'm not saying Gary Vaynerchuk is the paragon or Steve Jobs is the paragon, but there are certain types of personalities that they have successful businesses and people will say they're too aggressive, but I don't think they think about people worrying about them being aggressive, right? Then you have the quieter entrepreneurs who do what they do and they don't need to be aggressive, but it works for them. But just do you and understand that it doesn't really matter what people think if they're not adding value to your business. Understand that you have to take value and create to create. Create to create.
I wholeheartedly agree. And we're getting some great dialogue, and feedback here in the comments. So please definitely keep them coming. I want to go back to that earlier point about the word hustle. I agree. I think historically it has a negative connotation. I traditionally had heard the word hustle, and I think of two things. One, someone trying to hustle you out of money. So someone who comes around constantly just knocking on your door. It could be anyone from an insurance salesman selling door to door to someone selling, skincare products, but someone who's hustling you to try to make a quick buck. And then you also think of, I'm a big rap fan, so you think of like hustlers like Jay-Z before he became a rapper was like hustling in Brooklyn selling drugs, right? You think of like that connotation as well. Going back to it, I see hustling as the drive that we have within us that's going to get us over that finish line, connecting it back to the point that you made, Roberto, of sports, and let's face it, there's a fine line between being aggressive. I totally get that. But let's also keep it 100. You have to be your biggest fan. To your point, Tayo, you have to believe in yourself. And like Drake said, know yourself, know your worth. If you expect others to see that in you. Because I'm going to tell you this. I've worked on both sides of the spectrum. I've worked in corporate and I've worked for myself. And in corporate, nobody is going to hand you a promotion and just say, hey, I want to promote you because you wear nice clothes. Hey, I want to promote you because you have a lot of followers on social media. It doesn't work like that. You have to constantly internally be selling yourself to multiple stakeholders so they see the value that you bring. And that's where I think there's a very fine line between being aggressive and being just confident and knowing your stuff. And then the other side as an entrepreneur is you have to believe in your product. Again, it goes back to being your biggest fan. If you expect people to buy from you, you have to believe in what you have to offer. Even if it's not the best product in town, even if you don't run the biggest agency or the biggest company, at least know that when someone retains you to work with you, you're going to be able to offer and deliver as much value as you possibly can, and more so than the next person. That's real talk.
You know what, Carlos?
Yeah.
I gotta piggyback on what you just said, and it's not going to be a sports analogy. It's not a gender thing. I'm just saying it's not a sports analogy. But thanks, Roberto. I gotta say something. A lot about hustle cultures. We're talking about intensity, passion, aggression. Some people might think that we're arrogant, but you know what? We also have to talk about that we are still human. We still have feelings. We still actually need to, even though we're ignoring the noise, the negative noise, we still have to stand in our truths. If we are, down on ourselves about, like I can give you my example. I started to think that I couldn't close deals anymore because they were taking too long, but I was targeting a different market. So I'm not going to say that I was depressed, but I was starting to get into this, this mood or this phase where I'm like, is this the right thing for me? Am I doing the right thing? And, it's noise, it's a different kind of noise, but I still had to be in it. I had to experience it. So I'm not saying like we are superhuman. I am saying like we still have feelings. We still need to experience the negativity and then move on. Because at a certain point, like you can't just ignore everything. You know what I mean? Like you have to experience it. You have to feel it. Yeah. And then you have to do away with those negative feelings in another way. Am I making sense?
Absolutely.
No, you are. And you know, the thing you're saying, Q, that's so great. I think what entrepreneurs have to share, whether it's hustle or aggressive, whatever, is passion. But you're touching on the likability point that a lot of people have. And that goes into a question that we have on the audience. It's this guy, he's been hustling for 40 years, over 40 years. So he's not a newbie. But his question is that in many cases, an individual may be less effective because of the fear that they may lose likability points. Does anybody on the panel feel like they ever walk a tightrope between being effective and being liked?
Being effective and being liked.
Oh, yep. What's the line? What's the fine line between that?
Yeah, I'll take a first crack at it. You know, I'm someone that I've always cared about perception. I've always cared about being liked, if you will. And yeah, I'll be honest with you, the older I become, the more comfortable I grow into my skin. And it's not that I make an effort to be liked. I'm just myself. And you either are going to like me and love me, or you're going to just dislike me because there's something that you see in me that you're just like, oh, this guy rubs me the wrong way. And you know, some of my mentors have told me throughout the years, just be yourself. Like early on in my career, I would always try to go above and beyond and overcompensate for being young, for not having that degree or that MBA. And like I said, I just let that go. And I try to just be myself and be as passionate as I can. And honestly, just try to add as much value as I can to relationships and anything I touch. And you either take it or you leave it. So, you know, I do agree. I think there's a fine line. You can't walk around just being an a-hole. You can't. You know, the world has enough of them. I always say the world has enough of them. Don't be another one. But also know, like going back to the point with haters, there's always going to be people that just dislike you. They dislike what you're trying to accomplish. They dislike what you stand for. They're envious. They're jealous. They want to have what you have or what you're building. And, you know, you just got to brush them off and keep doing you, be you, move forward. Align yourself with people that help you elevate and step up your game. And if you keep doing that and just keep adding value to relationships, you'll never be hungry.
I agree, and I'm keeping with the sports, and we're going to go to music as well. But so be more concerned with your character than your reputation, because your character is what you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. John Wooden, 10-time champion of college basketball, and the reason why this is very important is that once you start being more comfortable with your character and who you are, the liking will come. I mean, if you can get someone like Taylor Swift and Adele and Beyonce having haters, and they're still rocking it with the Grammys and winning, that, you know, there's no way you're going to avoid haters. But I can guarantee you that if they let the haters dictate what their next move was, you know, they probably wouldn't be where they are right now. So it's understanding that there's a way you can filter out the noise, but there's also the most important thing that you have to do is your character. Carlos, you and Roberto, you know, I always say use your difference to make a difference. And that's the mission statement of the company I have. And it's basically accentuating who you are. No one can ever be the next you, but the only person that can is you. And if you apply that to your business and your model and everything that you do, people will buy into you. Like you were saying an earlier point with you're talking about, you might not have the best product, but you have to believe in yourself. If you watch Shark Tank, you watch a lot of people, how many times do you hear people say, you know, I don't really understand that, but I like you, right, and I can work with you. And that's it. If someone sees they can work with you and that you're passionate about what you're doing, it's what's going to happen. Because many of us in this panel, I can say for myself exactly, we pivoted. I mean, when I first met you, Carlos, you know, I was still in my undergrad years. I was just fresh out of college, but I was not doing what I'm doing now. But the passion was something that was consistent. You also,
I was in Florida. I remember when you and I really started engaging. It was what stands out for me is the night that the Heat won the championship. You and I were going back and forth on Twitter. And, you know, honestly, man, at that point, I was in my first role working for a brand, Winn-Dixie, running social media. I had never stepped on stage and spoken yet at a conference. I wouldn't have dreamed that I'd be doing what I'm doing today. And, you know, that climb would not have been possible to my earlier point, without surrounding myself with the right people.
That's super important.
Now, exactly. And Roberto, you this is your chance to just talk about the importance of community, because this is something that you're perfect at, and this is how we built our relationship, because you are essentially at that conference. That's what we were doing. We spent a lot of time together. So I want to give you the chance to talk about the likability aspect, building community, and pivoting and understanding it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. For likability, not unlike Carlos, I focused a lot when I was much younger on people liking me, and I would cry if they didn't. If people didn't want to be my friend, I would be genuinely upset. It was the worst thing someone could do to me. Today, not so much, and it's not because I've become egotistical or I've become an a-hole or anything like that, or maybe it is, but I would argue that it's not. And I say that to say this, is that there's this line where valuing yourself becomes very important, and you have to recognize that as the self-awareness. It's part of what all of us have been talking about, is realizing what your value is, and also you have to genuinely like and love yourself enough to get comfortable in your own skin and to give yourself a chance, and to realize that people, it is not just something that people say when they say that if people don't like you, it is their loss. It's absolutely true. And you realize that when you realize what your unique value is and what you bring to the table and you bring to the world, what you want to give to your relationships, what you know your intentions are. If you know, I only want to help people, or I only want to educate people, or I only want people to be healthier and happier in their life, or I only want to grow people's business, and they're resisting you. And Carlos, you know this, you've worked in corporate America, as have I before. As have many of you watching, there, sometimes you'll be in a situation where as a good employee, you'll be really good at your job, but you'll be a crap employee because you have people who are resisting you, and all you're trying to do is give them your best and give value. Mark Cuban talked about his story with that he wanted to grow the business and make it successful. He was being resisted on that. He wasn't liked by his boss, but he was beloved by the clients. And as a result, he found that he just couldn't work for other people. So that was an issue of pivoting, and where you might have to pivot. I thought when I was growing up that I was going to be a great animator and cartoonist because I was artistic, and that's what I wanted to do. I was going to work for Disney or Marvel. I pivoted at 16, 17, realized I'd been making money as a web designer as a teenager for years, and that I had skills in tech and video and photography and Photoshop. Pivoted to graphic design. Best decision I ever made. Pivoted in my career from doing creative services, working in corporate for other people while still freelancing and hustling like I did through college to get to pay for my own schooling out of pocket, no loans. Decided, you know what, that has to become my full-time grind. I'm leaving 90% of the value in the hands of my employer. I can do this on my own, and I'm being resisted in things that I can do better. And sure enough, I used the understanding of human relationships and social media to get to the conference where me and Tayo met 4 or 5 months ago, Next Gen Summit. Used social media, used the value of likability and engaging with people and being genuine and offering value. I said, look, I'm willing to come and shoot this conference and, help you guys market it with video and do these things. Just bring me out. Would love to meet you guys. Love what you're doing. Went to a conference, met some of the greatest millennial minds of our generation, met some of the people who are hand to God, some of my favorite people in the world now, people like Tayo and other friends of ours. And it works. And there was a question in the comments that I want to answer before I let everybody else jump in here. There was a question about the likability part of that. And there was also a question about, I think
it was how do you separate constructive feedback with haters?
Exactly. As someone with 50,000 subscribers in YouTube, as many positive comments as I get, the proportion of negative comments is still probably less than 1%. But the sheer volume of what that 1% represents as a human being is really annoying. And if I had a bad day, or if I was struggling with depression like I used to, that would be very unhealthy for me. Even with it being the 1%, 1% might represent 50 people giving me crap for no reason. And how you differentiate whether someone's legitimately a critic. Because one thing me and Gary Vee disagree on is he says, respect your haters. I go, respect your critics, ignore your haters. Because T Swift, haters gonna hate, shake them off. You gotta do that for your mental and emotional health.
So true.
But she's got a point.
Love that song, by the way.
Yeah, you respect critics, and here's how you differentiate a critic. I said this in one of my own talks. It's when someone gives you accurate, actionable advice, meaning that it's accurate. They took the time to assess what was going on or even ask questions and get a grasp of the situation and then speak to it in a way of not just, I don't like this, but hey, this specific thing, I had these issues with it for these reasons, and here's what I think could be improved. And then it's advice in a sense of take it or leave it or do what you're going to do with that. Not, well, if you don't listen, you're egotistical. Or if you don't listen, then you're just a bad listener or anything like that. It is constructive criticism. So, Tayo, you've told me constantly in a very constructive way that, Roberto, sometimes you ramble. Roberto, sometimes you overtalk or interrupt people because you get excitable. And I know your enthusiasm. Here's some things you can do to be better at that. And that's what is accurate, actionable advice. Not actionable advice, something that'd be a hater is, you think you're so bloody smart, or you talk too much, or why don't you learn to shut up? That's haters.
I think what you mean, Roberto, I'm sorry, is challenging your character. Is someone challenging your character, or are they challenging, what you're trying to, the delivery of your message?
Your execution, right.
Yeah.
If someone says you can execute better versus you suck, that is the difference. And so differentiate there and don't put up with attacks, but you don't have to fight every keyboard warrior. You could do what I do, which is delete.
What is a keyboard warrior for those
that must watch Nicole Arbor?
Twitter figures.
He watches Nicole Arbor.
I did like
no, but
because someone sent them to me. But for those who don't know, a keyboard warrior is somebody, it's like what we refer to as a troll in internet culture. It's somebody who is hiding behind their anonymity and not getting and putting their face and their real name out there the way that we do, and putting their credibility and their self on the line, putting themselves out there. They're hiding behind an avatar. They're hiding behind a fake pic. They're hiding behind a little egg in Twitter, and they're not really being accountable and owning what they say and standing up for it. If you want to have legitimate constructive criticism of someone, you got to put your own credibility on the line to do that, or it doesn't mean much.
Someone said here, IG stands for Internet Gangster.
And it goes back to, I'm sorry.
All right, so no, go ahead. I would be rude to not let you talk.
Thank you.
You got to talk.
So I'm going to say that it goes back. We're going to go back full circle, and we're going to talk about, do we care about if we are liked, or do we care about our character? Wasn't that what you were saying, Carlos?
Yes.
Is it character? Okay. So then it's character. That right there that's going to get you through the 1% of negative comments, Roberto. It's going to, you have to have a certain amount of thick skin, to be on the internet and to put yourself out there. Because, everything is out there on the interwebs, and once people share it, and, your weak moment can turn into this, like the weakest moment of your life in 2 seconds on the internet. And so you really have to know who you are, be comfortable in your skin. You just have to.
Yeah. You know what? I actually get fueled by criticism. I think criticism is actually a gift because I look at criticism as constructive criticism. You can't really improve if you don't know what people truly think about you or your product. So,
what if they're not right?
Well, no, but you have to take it for what it is because, perception is reality. So if someone says to me, like, Carlos, I really don't like this about you for XYZ reason, I actually, instead of taking it to heart, I really appreciate that. What I don't respect is... What's that?
What if they just say, Carlos, you suck, no qualifier? That's different.
Yeah,
right?
No, well, it's like, well, why do I
their
suck?
perception.
What am I not doing right?
Sometimes
if
they'll just feel like, I just don't like you.
Well, I'll give you guys a perfect example. So a couple weeks ago on Facebook, someone was making comments about our show because of Tayo's lighting and just went on and on about it. And I was like, I messaged the guy. I was like, dude, like, we're not in a professional studio. We're all in our houses recording for an iTunes production. So this guy went on and on. But you know what? Again, it's constructive criticism that you can either blow it off or you can actually take it as being value. What I disrespect and dislike is when people just hate. And they hate on someone because of their character. And they don't understand the drive that person has. They don't understand the hustle. They don't understand what makes them get up in the morning and be them and do what they do. And I always say, haters don't pay my bills. So if you're going to hate on me, I can either brush it off and just ignore that you exist, or at least approach me and let's get to know each other, get to know who I am before you're going to just pass judgment.
So Alex has a question for me on lighting. So normally I look like what Roberto looks like, but as you know, because my light, as you know, because I had I had to refresh the computer. I just had to come on with the camera because I didn't want to keep you all waiting. But how I took the criticism, I honestly didn't. By the time I had seen it, I was at work. It was like 20 threads of people going back and forth, and I was like, it had gotten to the point where it wasn't constructive to even respond, because then someone was having conversations with other people, and there were many side conversations. So I just left it alone. But for me, I didn't care. It didn't bother me. I knew, I do know that the lighting needs to be worked on, but the way his approach was something that I didn't feel like I needed to respect by responding to it, because he just said, I will never ever accept people that don't have good lighting, and that's what he said. So then I was like, fine. So I left it alone. But I know we're wrapping up, so we got like 20 more minutes, 15 to 20 more minutes. I really want to give the audience a chance to get into the early stages of you all. So I know Q, you've talked about feeling depressed, and Roberto, you've also talked about feeling depressed. And the reason I bring that up is there are many low points in entrepreneurs. I say it often. I said it in one episode, I was $20,000 in debt at the beginning of the year, and I worked my way out of that. And I know Carlos, you've certainly been in those type of situations. But the reason I'm bringing this point up is there's that point where, as a hustler, as an entrepreneur, you're trying to figure out what that next move is. You're questioning yourself: should I get back into this? Should I go back to that? Should I make it a side hustle? Nothing wrong with that. But how did you get yourselves out of those situations, and what was it like to be in those situations? I'm going to start with Roberto on you, and then let's just keep it to like 2 minutes or 3 minutes if it's that, and then we'll go back and forth because I want to make sure we get some more questions in.
So a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was bullied growing up, and that created a lot of like self-esteem issues with me for a lot of times, even though I knew that what I was doing, to me, I felt like it was good a lot of times or whatever. And even when I would show it to people who were like interested in it, as far as some of my work stuff, that'd be great. And I'd get positive feedback and constructive criticism and encouragement. I think that encouragement and a great community helped me stay creative and decide not to give up on my dreams of doing things that would be creative and artistic and have the results that I wanted, and to follow my dreams. I was encouraged to do that. But in general, even on my character and even on people just wanting to push me down for the sake of pushing me down, I was bullied a lot and beat up a lot throughout elementary school, middle school, high school. It was just not popular to be a black art nerd, and be into tech. And this is back in like the 90s and everything like that. It was, not cool to be Steve Urkel. Today, if I went back, if I was like 10 years younger, a different generation, I might have been a rock star now. But, with that being said,
did I do that?
Right. But with that being said,
yeah.
Part of the way that I got through it is for many years, honestly, I didn't really get through it. I just hung in there. I just endured. I just took it. And
right.
A lot of times I actually believed the narrative. I believed the criticism. I didn't like myself very much. And it took really taking a hard look and being much more self-aware, and then really not taking and believing other people more than I was willing to believe myself to get there. I had to become, as Carlos said, my own biggest fan. And the thing is, it started with just becoming a fan of myself at all. I really, really did not like myself. I mean, this was really bad. This was like, wow, if we could have afforded it at the time, I probably should have sought professional help pretty bad, And eventually what happened was, because of having the right people in my life and having the right people double down and tell me about my self-worth, and then seeing it for myself, then taking a harder look at what I was doing and what I wanted to do and what my intentions were, and the best people in my life, and starting to slowly cut out the negative experiences and the negative people and the negative situations and double down on all the good stuff. That's what got me to a place where I started to feel good about myself, started to be able to work harder and more confidently, talk more, speak up for myself, double down on and find out what my real voice and what my real vision was, go all in on it, believe in it, and not be swayed or deterred by what other people said or by my own failures in those early executions, and saying and realizing those failures were not failures. They were opportunities to learn, which then became opportunities to win. So that's what it was.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And before we go on there, I just want to get Q's opinion on that too, because I know you've also had interesting journeys. And then I want both of you to talk about that transition point where you decided to say, I like myself and I'm going to build a business around that. So your turn.
Okay, so we won't get deep down into the history lesson of Q, but I will say there's something to be said about trusting your gut. I used to just hear that all the time, but when I actually learned to trust my gut, my business just blew up in a good way, of course. And it's weird, looking back, I was never one of those. I really didn't ever care about what people thought about me. I just kept going. Even as a young kid, everybody always thought I was that entitled girl and I got everything I wanted, when in reality, it was the complete opposite. I worked for everything that I have. And it's like I trusted in myself when I was younger, and even back in school. And I had no idea that I was trusting in my abilities and what I was about. So as I got older, learning to trust my gut, being comfortable in my own skin, I just started putting stuff out on the internet, like about food. When I became a chef, I started, giving my opinion about things, about food, about restaurants, about chefs, about technique. And then people just started trusting me, like I trusted in myself and my own abilities. And so my marketing company was completely accidental. I thought I was just going to be that food blogger forever, which I love doing, by the way. I love giving my opinion about food. But, this was just such an accidental business. And the way that I've pivoted throughout the 5 years is that, whatever my clients want, I start moving in that direction. So I became a full service agency, providing web design, SEO, reputation management, which is one of my passions. And also now I'm an event planner. Now I'm planning all sorts of stuff for people, but I do that in my sleep, and it's stuff that I'm all passionate about. So people come to me for things that they know they can trust me with. And now my reputation is solid in these spaces because I trusted in myself.
Cool. So transitioning here, now that you both are appreciating who you are, what tips do you have for entrepreneurs? 3 tips do you have for entrepreneurs in terms of putting themselves out there and really just building and starting out?
Roberto?
Well done. Nicely played.
That was well played, buying time there. But no. So the first one I would say is find your voice and your vision. You have to know and believe in your own true story, your own true narrative, and know how that aligns to helping other people get where they want to be. Brian Fanzo and I have talked a lot of times about how people become thought leaders, and it comes down to your voice and your vision. Are you putting something out there that is worth people following, and is it leading them to a place that they want to be and that they want to get to? So I would say that that's number one. Number 2, the passion and commitment to be consistent in your execution of whatever you're going to do, and to be creative in your approaches to it, and to always make sure that you're considering the context of it. If you're not doing it creatively, it's not going to be interesting enough to hold people's attention. If you don't have the right context, you're going to miss up. Even if it's a great execution, you're going to miss the mark and miss the ball. And then if you are doing great stuff, but you're not consistent, it's flash in the pan. It's not going to be sustainable. It'll never scale. And people may love you, but they won't rely on you. So that would be number 2. My third one would be focus on a sense of community and creating awesome experiences for other people, and looking for people who can create awesome experiences for you. I'm here today because of the fact that I'm in communities where I have opportunities to interact with people like Carlos and like Tayo, and and that we can create value for each other, create disproportionate value for other people that we interact with. And before I let things come out of my mouth, or before I take an action in the world, I try to think, am I creating awesome right now? Am I creating an awesome experience for another human being? Am I creating, or am I destroying? Am I adding value, or am I subtracting from the experience? And if we can all do that 9 times out of 10, we'll all be in a better place. And so those are my 3 tips for entrepreneurs.
Prop bomb. You gotta send in some prop bombs for that. That's just bomb. Yes. And then while we're sending prop bombs, we're gonna buy more time for Q, because Q's got 3 tips.
I'm ready.
Oh, I'm ready.
What the heck? I am ready.
Lady,
Thank you for the time, Roberto. And I'm going to piggyback off your last tip. Thank you. Yes, I was born ready. See?
Q was born ready. Forgive
Kyle,
me.
come on.
Forgive me.
I'm going to send the matching memo to Carlos next time. So
Hey.
first tip. Okay. It's about entrepreneurship. Really focus on the social impact, building a community, pain points, not about the money. Because, there was a comment in the chat earlier about how can you be an entrepreneur or how can you start your own business if it's not something you're passionate about? People do it all the time. People jump on the MLM pyramid scheme bandwagons because it's about the money. Being focused on the money is never going to get you anywhere. It's not sustainable. It's not typically scalable. So focusing on the social impact, how you can help people, the pain points of businesses, that's how you can really form a solid business and a solid future for yourself as an entrepreneur. Second tip, and this is purely out of my own experience, surround yourself with some of the greatest people on earth, people that you admire, people that can help you when you're down or you're weak, and people that know you. I have moved around so many times in my life. I've been in Phoenix the longest, and I have people that have known me since I was in 6th grade that really have helped bring me down to earth and remind me of where I came from. Not that I ever forget, but it's really helpful to have those people around, and also in the same space as you, and even your competitors. There's enough business for everybody, so you really can learn from each other. So that's surround yourself with amazing people. And that's something that I really have done. And I could not live life without them. Third Q-tip. Okay. Is,
nice. I love it.
Thank you.
Tip.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Clean out the ears.
It's all about the branding, right? And that's actually not a tip.
My ears are perked up. Right.
All right. Self-awareness. Okay. And I'm going to do a shameless plug, and Tyler, you'll appreciate this, for my new Blab coming out next Tuesday at 3:30 or 4:30 Arizona time, Phoenix time, is called Marketing Therapy. And marketing therapy is not just about marketing. It's actually about, we also market ourselves as people. So it's not just about marketing a particular product or service. We market ourselves as people, and it's really about being self-aware. So my third tip is you really need to do everything in your power to be self-aware. And what that does is it actually helps you grow as a person. And it also helps you learn about, to take on that criticism and to determine whether or not it's challenging your character or challenging, your execution. And you really can stand your ground as to, this is who I am, and you're challenging me in the wrong way, and I'm just going to ignore it, or I'm going to accept it and thank you for helping me grow. So be self-aware. And marketing therapy next week. Thank you.
Excellent. And that is #real talk. Anyways, guys, before we wrap up, we do this segment. Tayo is there nodding his head no. Before we wrap up, guys, we do this segment with our guests each and every week here in the Hustle Culture Podcast, in which we want to give our guests 30 seconds to pitch themselves, their business, and let the audience know where you can be found. It's our version of Shark Tank. So, Roberto, let's bounce it back to you. You got 30 seconds. Go.
All right, so you guys can find me and all of my video content over at youtube.com/RobertoBlake2. And I do a lot of different content there 7 days a week. So check it out. There's stuff for creatives, entrepreneurs, so on and so forth. You can ask me questions anytime at Roberto Blake in Twitter. You can find me here on Blab, 2 shows a week, one on Mondays, one on Fridays. Please don't forget to subscribe, and remember to create something awesome today.
Boom.
Excellent.
I don't know if I could beat that or match that, for that matter. All right. So I am Q the everything, as Vincent Orlick likes to say. Q the brand, full service marketing agency focused on small, medium, large businesses and educating the masses about all things social media. So any questions as a manager or how to start a business in this space, I would love to help you. and I love marketing reputation management. So this is something that I'm very passionate about, hence my new Blab next week. I'm also Q, the chef, for all the ramblings in my life or anything food or nutrition related. And if you have food allergies or know someone that does, Q Approved is my upcoming startup that I'm trying to spread the word about. So I appreciate you, Carlos and Tayo, for having me on, because this is, this topic is something that, I'm very passionate about and I love to share with others. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you
joining us, Q.
We appreciate you two for coming on last minute, helping us out, and really hotline blinging this whole thing up, because hotline bling is everywhere. Boom! you don't get the reference, Q, but there are a lot of hotline bling memes going on about, and it's basically everywhere. But that's how much value you guys brought. You really brought down the house today, and thank you so much for doing that. Carlos, what's hashtag Real Talk?
All right, guys, we are going to transition. Thank you, Roberto and Q, for joining us. We are going to transition now over to our final segment, which is when Tayo and I do our Hustlers Spotlight of the Week.
Wow.
So this is where we talk about hustlers that are doing some big things out there, and we want to spotlight them and give them some love. So I'm going to turn it over to my co-host here, Mr. Tayo Rockson, with his Hustler Spotlight. Hey, that's what happens when you let me introduce the segment, Tayo.
Oh, man. Oh, my Hustler Spotlight. Okay. My Hustler Spotlight is... Gosh, all right. I don't know if we can do famous people. I don't know if we agreed on that. But one of the people that I was really impressed with this week was Adele. I'm a very big fan of Adele. But I was listening to what she had come on, and she recently released "Hello," which is going to break every Blab record, Vivo record and YouTube record. But I was listening to her interview on the podcast, a radio show, Radio 1 on Apple, and she said, she at one point had written an album and it was all about motherhood, and she scrapped the whole thing because she didn't feel like it was something that she wanted to do. But she said she wasn't going to release an album until she was ready. So she waited, I think, 3-4 years and released this one. And what she did was she waited for the story to come to her, and she stayed true to herself. She didn't release one because people thought she was just, she had to, and she was Adele. So I was really impressed that someone as big as her allowed the process to lead her to her art. And she did it, and when it came out, it was obviously glorious and obviously amazing, and I'm not being biased. But I think it reminded me of an important lesson that don't do things because other people say you should do it. Do things because you want to do it, and do things that are authentic to who you are. So that's my Hustler Spotlight, although she's, she is Adele. So
I didn't know that you were a big Adele fan. I thought you were gonna mention Hustler Spotlight of the Week is on Drake with his amazing music video that's just taken in social media by storm.
Hey, yeah. Oh, I had a feeling you were going to do Drizzy, so I didn't want to take that.
No, Drizzy's not my Hustler Spotlight. I thought it was going to be.
No. I mean, I like to surprise people because you didn't tell me yours, so I want to hear.
Yeah, so my Hustler Spotlight of the Week is actually our mutual friend Anna Hendricks. And Anna is someone that we both are looking forward to having on the show here very soon. Anna is the founder and CEO of Arch, which is a digital agency. And she's someone that I've come to connect and really enjoy engaging with over the last several months here through social media. She's doing really big things. She has these Wednesday Wisdom videos that she puts on Facebook. She puts them on YouTube. She's constantly just spreading this amazingness, amazing energy and vibes. And what really draws me in about Anna is her positivity. And I think we need more folks like that in the community to step up and just be these positive, forces. And she mixes her positivity in with her business savvy. So she has a very good following and reputation on social media. She's constantly blogging, writing about what's trending and what's coming out. And she's just doing big things. I know she's out there in your neck of the woods, Tayo, in New York at a conference this week in which her agency, I believe, was contracted to provide social media support for. So again, Anna Hendricks, make sure that you guys out there follow her at Anna Hendricks on Twitter. And she's just a great person I look forward to interviewing here on the show very soon.
Yeah. You already know that's where I'm going. That's why as soon as the Blab is over, we're going to grab coffee because she's got, it's coffee. We're going to grab a late lunch before her a conference. But yeah, she's someone that you all should watch out for and just engage with. She's full of positivity and wellness and just all around good person to interact with. So there you have it, Adele and Anna Hendricks.
In the same sense, at the same time. So before we wrap up, just want to say a big thank you to everyone that has jammed out with us here on Blab. You guys rock. I want to say that we were holding the spot for the top Blab for the last hour, and it couldn't have been possible without all of you amazing hustlers out there. Make sure that you download and subscribe to the Hustle Culture Podcast on iTunes. Please, please, please leave us a review, because we want to know what you guys think. And again, this is all about trying to keep the community out there as amped up and inspired as possible. So I'm going to turn it over to you, my man.
Yeah, and I'm just going to piggyback from what Carlos said. We need your help to get the podcast in the rankings. And the way to do that is your reviews, your subscriptions, and you spreading the word. We love that you guys continue to share positivity and highlight and interact with us, and we love that you engage with us to keep us the top Blab show for the last hour. But thank you so much for staying with us, and we will be back next week. As always, Los and I want to tell you, use your difference to make a difference.
Boom. Peace.